Okay, how many of you guys have sponsored somebody? 2 or 3 or 4 people? Maybe you've grown a little bit of a group. Who's had an opportunity to sponsor somebody and get them so excited and then blow them out of the business? Have you, anybody able to blow anybody out of the business? All right, so today we're going to talk about some key specific rules and principles that will help you keep people into your business, okay? I'm going to share with you what Suzanne shared with me on the way up. I think it'll set the tone for the panel. She said this. She says, you know, in sponsoring people over the years, and all my experience in helping people go from point A to point B, she says, criticism does not work. She says everything that you can point out to them that they're doing wrong, stuff it in your mouth, swallow it, and leave it in there somewhere. I shouldn't quite say it that way, but that's how I interpret it. Once it got into my ears, that's how I got it worked out. But she says basically criticism doesn't work. She says look at that person and see their next step, and then start seeing that person and communicate to them as though they are there or that's where they're going. So that's probably a good way to start. So maybe we'll go down to start off with the Jacobits. What are some of the experiences? If you could give a real experience, either something you did well or something you really screwed up on bad, instead of just talking in generalities, talk about a specific person you blew out or a specific person you helped grow and the principles you used to do it. I think it'd be more interesting. So go ahead.
Well, I have 2 instances that immediately come to mind. I think of all the money I could have made. First one is a couple that we started, and the first thing out of my mouth, I don't know why I said this, is they go, what do we need to do to get started? And I said, well, there's certain things that you have to do. That was not a good beginning. Because, you know, immediately what they're thinking is how much money is it going to cost me? How much time is it going to cost me? What is the commitment level? And for right then on, they were very defensive. And I started going on and say, well, you need to do your own personal volume. There's nobody that's been successful that hasn't done their personal volume. Well, they're like, well, what does that take? So then, you know, they want to know the exact dollar figure, you know. And then they said, well, what else? I go, you need to go to all the meetings. You have to go to all the meetings. They're like, well, what else? Well, you have to get on system. They're like, well, what else? Well, we'll probably need to come over to your house 1 or 2 times per week just to get you started for this first several weeks. You know what? That was like a really bad start. So all the time that we spent like grooming this couple, showing the plan, I realized I was really good at showing the plan and like getting him in and getting him to sign the form, but I wasn't so good about, now this is like, you would think I had done that right when I got in the business, but this is actually recent history. What it was a confirmation for me that what should I have done? I should have just asked questions and found out where they were coming from, what they were excited about, what they wanted to get in the business, and kind of what their level of commitment that in their mind was, and kind of worked from that base.
Yes, I think really this business is all about what life is all about, which is love and connection with other people. And it really comes down to love. Also, I think one of the diamonds talked about when you're dancing with someone and the music stops, you need to stop. So if you insist they keep dancing after the music stops, then it gets to be very awkward for both of you dancing with no music. So I think, you know, it's very important to find out what people want to do and are willing to do and go from there. If they just want to buy one product, I'm doing a little happy dance. I'm great. You know, finding out where they're coming from rather than imposing my will on them. A specific situation would be I was driving depth one day in a leg that we were really excited about because it had taken a long while to get this leg going. And we finally got a couple of people in depth. And I was down working with one of the women, and she was not on system yet. I sat in front of her and I was drawing all these circles and I was telling her, you absolutely have to get on system. You won't be successful. Nobody's successful who's on system, and you absolutely have to do it. Do you understand? You know, and she looked at me, yes, yes, yes. And that's the last we saw of her. So, you know, I think it's you know, that's pretty much it.
All that money you could have made. Wow. I think finding something good in everybody, because every person who comes into this business, every person you show the plan to has something very unique about them that can be an addition to your team. They will be an asset to your team. And sometimes if they're really different than you, you don't see that right away. I guess observing what people are good at. And a new IBO recently, I just noticed that she, almost by habit, would say thank you after anything somebody says to her. It just almost startled me. I would say, hi, how you doing? And she'd been trained to just say that. She'd say, thank you, I'm doing great. And I realized that was a love language for her. I just realized that was an asset that she had. So I just made it a point to say, you know what, I am impressed by how you naturally have just gratitude built into your language. I said, that's a really unique asset that you have. And it truly was. Now, there was a lot of rough spots in this woman that I thought, man, you know, maybe my mind was going, you're going to have to change the way you dress, you're going to have to change the way you this, you're going to have to change the way, you're going to have to quit that. And naturally my mind was trying to get into the correction mode, but just by relaxing and just taking someone in, you will find something unique about them that you aren't going to find if you're going down the list about what you think they're going to need to change to be successful. It's created a really nice bond to me with us. And what do you think she said when I said, you have that wonderful asset about you?
Thank you.
She said, thank you. I said, oh, there you go.
Yeah, you know, it's a delicate balance. There's people. I try to stay focused on, be really honest about what you can control and what you can't control. Be honest about that. Is that, you know, there's people who have built the business in spite of us. When you find someone who's going to build it, they just want you to get out of their way and they're going to build it. And I love those people. Give me 6 of them. What I'm hearing about here is a lot of mismanagement. We feel we have a need to manage people or places or things. Good luck with that one. You know, manage what you can, which is you. I have very limited ability to change someone else. I can hope to affect the one, and if we have a common goal of what we're working towards, which is something really beneficial for their life, then we've got their attention, we can work together. But I think there are more people where I have failed to follow through correctly. You know, if we follow through with prospects, why don't we follow through better? And when I say we, I mean, you know, me. Why don't I follow through sufficiently with new IBOs? You know, am I afraid of, you know, we don't want to say, okay, well, I'm going to be at your house every other night for the next month. Get used to it. Now, that doesn't work, but waiting for them to call, because sometimes we can be too passive. So it's finding that balance between pushing someone and being too passive, because we've lost people instead of blowing them out and let them drift away. And I'll always, you know, the part of me will always regret that. So it's developing the relationships to where we find what's comfortable, but will still move their business forward. And the more we're focused on what the benefit is, what we're moving towards, the more they're going to want to do something. Okay?
That's really good. That's a good point. Wow. It's not fair. Let's see, those were It's like as each one of the people were talking, you're, oh yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I did that too. So by the time it gets here, you're going, wow, they said it all. But in a positive note, when I look at who's been wonderful in relationships, that's been a good example to me, I always think of Virginia. And, I think of any time I saw her, do you guys know that really I was her favorite person? But you know what? Don't you guys all feel like that? When you saw her, she was just so happy to see you. And Curtis and Virginia basically started Team Builders. And she has since passed on, but has left a wonderful legacy. She was just full of life and full of love. Every time you saw her, I remember anytime she saw me, her face just lit up and she was so happy to see me. Think of, creating good relationships. It's kind of like your favorite person comes through the door, and you light up. And I think that that's a really important thing. And I think, when you think of, what's been already shared, huge points about, I think we're all trained naturally, especially if you've been in the business for a little while, to see what people aren't doing and know where they need to progress. And if we can work more on focusing on, just like what Chris said, doing what they're doing well and complimenting them, you'll get way more of that. So those are just a couple thoughts that came to my mind. Brad's deep in thought. This is his
No, I always thought I was
book.
Virginia's favorite person. Okay, a week ago Wednesday, we went out, Valerie and I jumped in the car and we drove 130 miles out to Mike and Mary Dowdy's house. And they were having a house meeting and they had, 7 or 8 new people there. And there was this new couple. We've been working with this group a little bit, and I've made 7 trips out there in the last 2 months. It's 130 miles out and 130 miles back. Brian Hill did a meeting for us. Wayne Meadows did a meeting for us. Dave Stein did a meeting for us out there. We brought him out there, and so the dang caterpillar's stuck in the cocoon. And Mike's doing a great job every week. He's got a brand new guy there, or a brand new couple there, and I'm getting excited. And this new couple shows up, and for some reason, I have a feeling that I'm going to bust this cocoon tonight, even before the caterpillar gets in. And I started talking about it, and I said something about I showed him how how you go diamond, but then I showed him the fast track, and I said, this business works when you put somebody in there. And they go boom, and they put their 3 in there because they got a dream, because they step up to the plate. That's a real fast track. That's what you got. And I said, and I ain't going to do it for you. Well, right about that time, her hair came off her head. She looked like Brian. And yeah, totally. And I didn't think anything of it, really. I really didn't think anything of it. Till after the deal was. And sometimes when you've been around for a few years and you've been through a bunch of books and a bunch of tapes and a bunch of experiences, and your cannons are loaded, but I just gave her a 21 gun salute with my cannons. And I got some really good counsel from Mike. He says after the thing was all over, after he'd worked so hard to get him there for the first time, and as they walked out the door, she was limping. She had taken some drug. Remember, what drug did she take? What was it?
It was a Brad aspirin.
She said she took some antihistamine or something.
Yeah, it's Benadryl.
Anyway, Benadryl or something like that. But she really was not even. She looked like she'd been tipping it back. But I think maybe she took something to calm herself down. But Mike said something that was very, very profound to me, and I thought about it all the way home. He says, cream always rises to the top. You can't beat the cream out of the milk. If you don't get that, you're going to be beating a lot of cream out of the milk for a while.
Can you give it to me one more time, Brad? I think one of the great things about a panel like this is that you see the diversity of people. You see that it's kind of a microcosm of our business. And that is that every one of us is different. Everybody has a different personality. Anybody that's read any of the personality books, whether it's the colors or the numbers or the sanguines, all that stuff. I mean, if we went down the line here, you'd probably find that there's some, somebody probably has a dominant characteristic of being sanguine. Does anybody have the sanguine characteristic in the... Okay, so Valerie's just excited. She doesn't even know. But so what about choleric? Do we have any cholerics? Whoa! There's a choleric end of the spectrum, and then there's like some melancholies. Any melancholies in the, so any melancholies in the, so. But I'm just saying there's differences, and so you just have to understand that in your business, in your group, everybody's different. And I realized a long time ago that I can't identify with everybody in my group. Not everybody's going to identify with me. And I think that's, a nice plug for, the system, the system meaning all the people on the team, the audios and stuff like that. It's kind of the great equalizer. But I think, it's really gets down to what these guys have all said. You can't force people to do anything. Basically, all you can do is, you can love people. I mean, I got a great idea. I'm not a musician, but I had a great idea for a song lyric would be like, love. All we need is love. Love is all we need. Something along those lines.
I got a tune for that one.
So, and Brad's got a tune for it.
It's an original. Na 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 na. Hey, we could be on American Idol next year.
Yeah.
I like it. You never know what's going to come up there.
But isn't it funny? But that's really what I think it gets down to, is that you just have to treat people like they already are what you want them to become. If you try to, like he said, I mean, I can't do it better than Brad, you know what I mean? But beating the cream out of milk, you know what I mean? I'm going to maybe working on that for a while, but I think I basically got the thing.
I think we're going to have Jenny LaSalle come up right now. She looks like she's got a confession. Look at her. Jenny, do you got a confession that would help the group? Come on up here. Just give us... You got to... Here, have my seat. When you see somebody out there just about ready to... All right, go ahead. Just let it out.
I never thought I'd be proud to tell you guys all my mistakes, but when Brad was saying beating the cream out of someone, I in the beginning, if I showed somebody the plan and they didn't get it right off the bat, I'd look at them for a minute and I'd think, I know the words were plastered across my forehead, but I'd be looking at them and I said, what did you just say? Do you understand what I just showed you? And without them even answering, I'd say, well, I guess you're just stupid. I did. I would think to myself, here's what I think.
You take some notes now. I just stupid. That's S-T-U-P-I-D. This girl is one of the most successful gals we've ever had build the business. Stupid, okay? Make sure you tell them that.
Because I'd be thinking to myself all the things that I did to get there that night. And again, I learned so much in the beginning. I got beat up a lot. I was focused on myself. That's what it all boils down to. As I'm sitting there sharing the plan, I'm thinking all about the sacrifices I had to make there, to get there. I had my 2 kids, and Tony was home with a hurt back, and I'm thinking, I had to do this, do that. I'm dragging one kid out the door as I'm leaving. My husband's mad at me because I'm leaving, and he doesn't believe in what I'm doing. And I show the plan, I sacrifice, and they look at me after they've told me their dream, that they're broke. Oh, well, I don't really think I need it. So I would just explode. And it didn't work. And but in sharing the business that many times and finally figuring out what didn't work, what I really figured out was you really have to be focused on the person, forget about whatever's going on in your life, focus on that person, love that person for where they're at, because you know what? I'm not very lovable a lot of times either. And you don't know what you don't know. But it was, when I look back now, it was a fun ride getting beat up. And how much you can learn. So thank you for inviting me up here. But I was commiserating.
Okay. When Brad first asked that question, the first thing I thought of was an instance when I was sitting down with someone when Ditto first came out. And, like Doug was hitting me over here, I have melancholy tendencies. Those in my group are very familiar with that. And so, I'm thinking, this is the most fabulous program, Ditto on the first, and Ditto to be able to schedule stuff. So I sat down and my goal was to get that person every product in their home was going to be on Ditto before I left. And about 2 hours later, that was definitely a negative thing. And that person was no longer on Ditto after that. So that was the first thing that popped into my mind. There was another time that I was going with a new IBO to get one of their friends as a customer set up on Ditto. And granted, she was new in the business, so the products were new to her, and she was just learning to use them. But I should have had a little chat with her, because as I was sitting down and had learned not to put everything on, just get them going on a few things, and they'll add to it as they learn to love that program. And we're getting them set up, and getting a few of her products for her household. And my new IBO that was right there with me started promoting a Brand X product and how fabulous it was on her carpet. And slit my throat, basically. So that was a do not do, maybe. Have a little chat with your IBO and remind them that, you're in business. We want to promote your products now and not the store's products. Anyway, so I think overall, as I was hearing all these great examples and ideas and do's and don'ts, I think the thing for me and what I've had to learn to tone down my melancholy tendencies and those overpowering, we've heard a lot of people say about controlling and what you can control and what you can't. And I just think it's that KISS principle. You've heard it, the KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And we even heard Lisa from the corporation talking about that, and for me and my personality, that's what has worked the best in all areas, whether I'm trying to move a product, whether I'm trying to show the plan, whether I'm trying to just make friends and get that relationship with people and new IBOs and whatnot. It's just keep it simple and love people where they're at and set the example and just keep it simple. Keep it simple, and that's, to me, what makes it fun and moves with it.
I think we all have been talking about words, but I wanted to add one thing that I think is really important is that most of communication is without words. And I read this story the other day where there were two actors that were acting a play, and one of the actors didn't like the other actor very much, and the director stopped it in the middle, and he goes, you don't like the other guy very much, do you? And it was very, very awkward, and everybody was just sort of sitting there saying nothing. And he goes, it reads. Even though you're not saying anything while you're doing the lines, it reads that you don't like him. So can you find one thing about that person that you like? And maybe that won't come up so much with prospects in the sense that, obviously you're going to want to do everything you can to like the prospects, but sometimes people do things that frustrate you or that, make it difficult for you. And the quicker you can get over that, the better, because it reads. It totally reads whether you say anything about it or not.
Is this it? Here's one thing I think you could always remember is one is you can't beat the cream out of the milk. Okay, I mean you can really come up with a little talk on that. Just think about it as you're talking to your product. You can't beat the cream out of them. There is cream out of them, but he said, and then the thing that Mike patted me on the head on the way home was he says cream rises. And cream rises, that rises of its own fruition. It moves, it moves. And basically something that Jody Victor said a long time ago, he says, BTE, he says, be the example and the cream will rise and as it will. And when it does, it stays forever. And with that, that's our confession for this.
While the techniques and approaches suggested have worked for others, no one can guarantee that these techniques and approaches will work for you. In addition, we want to emphasize that success in this business does not come without hard work. The success depicted in this profile may reflect income from sources other than Amway, such as earnings from the sale of training and education materials or other businesses and investments. For existing IBOs only, not for you.